What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Hawk Talk on Melrose. Tyler, we are officially 3 days away from college football, 10 days away
Uh,
from football. It just feels so good saying that. What's going on, dude? What's up, man?
oh my gosh, dude. I'm so pumped. This is the week zero. Obviously, the first real matchup of the season. You got Nebraska Northwestern. I'm actually coming to Lincoln to see you this weekend. I'm so pumped for college football that I've decided to make a little trip out of it, see you, and
Yeah,
get the
it's gonna be
football
fun.
season kicked off the right way. So I'm
Yeah, I
pumped.
can't wait. It's just like I said before, the best words coming out of my mouth is saying that. We started this up back on July 20th, and
Yep.
it's gone so fast. And we were kind of nervous right away, starting up maybe too soon because it's like, okay, we have 6 weeks before the season starts. But I think it's been going well. We've been coming up with some good topics and just different things to talk about. Same thing today. We got some different things that we're going to go over. Over unders, we're going to look at. And then, of course, at the end, we're going to look at the Nebraska Northwestern game, give our prediction, and then also look at the Illinois Wyoming game. As always, you can find us on YouTube. We are now on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces on YouTube. So subscribe there, like, comment, whatever. That's kind of like our prefer. I mean, so far I'm actually like loving the YouTube part of it.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to watch this on YouTube or whatever, we are on, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Castbox, you name it.
Spotify.
We're pretty much on pretty much every platform. You could just go to Google, you can type in Hawk Talk on Melrose, and it'll come up with a bunch of different platforms. You can go on our Twitter page, and we have links to various ones. So all we ask is you subscribe, you rate us, leave a review, good or bad, I don't really care, and we'll be happy. So
Yeah, leave a comment. Leave a comment with things that you guys want to maybe go over, us to maybe talk about in future episodes or anything like that. We love feedback. We love to kind of answer some people's questions if they have them too. So,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So I guess the first thing I want to talk about today on this podcast, I know we got into it a little bit last week with Colby, and I kind of wanted, I love kind of researching some different stuff, but one big emphasis for the offense this year is we got to get the offensive line back to being the boys of the Big Ten, and the word that we used to use a lot for Iowa football. And then, if we can get to that point, our run game will be way better, which will open up, play action pass. It'll open up other areas for the offense. But then not only that, but in the passing game, having a good offensive line, giving Spencer Petras, who in my eyes has a good arm, but just gets kind of rattled in the pocket. If you give him some time, he will perform at a much higher rate. So I was looking at this. I know Colby kind of brought it up, but I wanted to look at it more. Is the average weight compared to from last year compared to this year, and it's truly unbelievable how much more we weigh. We look. I know Colby said we look like a Wisconsin type of offensive line going into this year. Last year, Jack Plum, Kyler Schott, Tyler Linderbaum, Connor Colby, Nick DeJong, we averaged 294 for a weight, which just is not gonna in the Big Ten, just not gonna cut it. A lot of these guys were obviously young, and this is what I took from the Iowa Minnesota game, which was second or third last game of the season. So it kind of gives you a good idea. I know Kyler Schott was out most of the season last year, but he did come back later in the season. But yeah, no one over 300 pounds, which is just kind of crazy. I mean, we had a couple 6'7", 6'6" guys. Kyler Schott was 6'2", but no guy under 300. And then you go into this year, and everyone besides Logan Jones, who I do want him to put on a little bit more weight. He's at 283, but from what I've heard, he's a freak in the weight room. He's already passed Tyler Linderbaum's records in the weight room, so I'm not too worried about that. I mean, you're talking Mason Richmond, 6'6", 308, Tyler Ellsbury, 6'5", 308, Jennings Dunker, 6'5", 316, Connor Colby, 6'6", 308, with an average of about 304. Logan Jones kind of brings that average down. We'd be more like, 310, 312, that is a Big Ten offensive line. And I'm not saying just because you weigh more, you're going to be better, but this is a good start. And I'm really excited for this offensive line because I really do think there's a lot of potential there. It starts with that. And I just think, in my eyes, if you have a good offensive line, especially Iowa, the offense is going to look better. We might not be much better this year compared to last year on the offense, but the offensive line is just better. We are going to look better on the offensive side because other things are going to open up. Run game's going to look a lot better. And if run game can look a lot better, like I said, everything else will open up.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I think you make I agree. I think you make a good point. I mean, if anything, it can't hurt, right? Like
Yeah.
offensive line was not good last year, and we haven't until last week. I feel like we didn't really address it too much so far in the podcast, and Colby
No,
made
we
up
really haven't.
made a good point about that offensive line, and we talked about it last week, and it's good to address it now because I agree. Like adding more weight, it might not necessarily mean that you're a better offensive line, but bigger, stronger, more durable, things like that in the course of a Big Ten season, I feel like is a good start, like you mentioned.
And that's, and obviously I'm taking what I think the starting five will be.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
anything can change and, injuries, different things like that. But I really think if these guys still all stay healthy, I do think this will be the starting five. And yeah, I mean, they're going to look like dudes out there. I mean, they're, besides Logan Jones, who's, a little bit undersized, but once again, at the center position, I'm not overly worried about that. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about this offensive line. I guarantee you're kind of the same way as me. That's one position kind of going into a season or like the summer off season, whatever, that I don't really focus much on. So when we get closer to the season, I really don't know much about the offensive line. And so I really have to do kind of my research on this type of stuff, Kids Day, different things like that. And I'm starting to have a good grasp of this offensive line and the potential that's there. I think number one, just knowing the names, because once again, I mean, there's so many guys that go in and out, just knowing the names, knowing, okay, this guy's at left tackle, this guy's at right tackle, right? And I'm starting to kind of get a clear picture of that. And, it might be biased to say, but I do think that this offensive line, it's going to be really good for us because let's face it, last year's offensive line was probably one of the worst lines under Kirk Ferentz or in Kirk Ferentz's, history at Iowa. And, that's not a good thing.
No, and I think, like you mentioned, run game and obviously everything, that goes along with the run game.
Yeah.
Play action, pass game, just Spencer in the pocket in general. It all wasn't good last year. And it probably starts at that group, the offensive line.
And think about too, we say this all the time, 2020, our offense was not that bad with Petrus, first year with Petrus. Right. The first two games, well, I guess I can't even say that because the Purdue game, we put up some points. It really wasn't a bad year offensively. I mean, it was actually not decently good in terms of Iowa standards. I don't know, you stack them up against, other standards. No, but for Iowa standards, it was not a bad year. And why? Because the offensive line that year was actually pretty good. So you get a good offensive line, good things will happen. So, yeah, we'll just have to see how it unfolds. I fully expect that first game, right? Like South Dakota State, and we'll talk about this next week. Am I a little worried about that game? Kind of, just because they are a good FCS school. I just think you just got to lean on them, right? It's probably, I'm looking at the weather forecast before, it's supposed to be a high of 82 degrees. So it's going to be a hot day. You just got to lean on them, right? They don't have the depth on the defensive line, or then, our defensive line going up against their offensive line. So that's where you win the game at. And that's why, right now I'm not, as we get closer, I'll get a little bit more nervous, but that's why I'm not as concerned about that game, is because I just think, you got some big boys up there, and I think they're going to, be able to man them out a little bit.
Yeah, it would be a good first test. And I agree. I think
see how they look too.
Right. Over the course of the game, I think you're right. When it comes down to the amount of depth that, a D1 school like Iowa has compared to South Dakota State, I think you'll see that, especially maybe in the second half.
That's why, whenever a D1 school plays an FCS school, because FCS schools have talent. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are on their team that could literally play D1. But I just think most of the time, the reason why they can never, actually beat the D1 school is just because of that issue, because of just the depth there. You just
there's only a handful of players that maybe are considered what we consider maybe a D1 Division I athlete, and right.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially offensive and defensive line. I think a little bit maybe undersized, possibly. in areas like
Yeah, I would
that.
have
So
to. Maybe for next week I'll look more into that and see what like,
yeah,
especially like their offense line, see what South
yep,
Dakota State kind of averages, and
right,
just kind of see where they're at, for that, because once again that can be a sign. But we'll talk more about that game next week. We'll get all into
for
that.
sure.
So excited for that. Okay, let's kind of switch gears here. We kind of all know we talked about this again last week a little bit about how good, or the potential, I shouldn't say how good because you don't know until you see it, but the potential for the freshman class. And I fully expect, I know I had a list of about 8 guys, and Tyler and I are going to rank them from 8 to 1, where we kind of think like, not just ranking like, oh, he's better than this guy, just in terms of like what we think is going to happen this year, and the
Yeah,
potential and the
right.
what they're going to bring to the table. I think there's 8 guys that are probably going to see a decent amount of action. And I think they all have, like I said, great potential. So we're going to rank them quick. I always like doing this, kind of fun. So we don't know each other's lists. So we'll start
Right.
with number 8. And so number 8's kind of like a guy, he's still has a lot of potential, but, we don't really think he's going to bring that much to the table this year per se. And then we'll go all the way to 1 guy that we are 100% like, this guy's going to it's going to do a lot for us and is going to be a major factor for us. So we'll start with number 8, Tyler. Tyler, who do you have?
So obviously we didn't really go through the 8 guys that we're going to talk about, but at 8, I've got someone that was on our list, Addison Ostrenga. He's a tight end. He's a big tight end. I think we talked about him last week. He's huge. I think just because of how good we are right now at the tight end position, as well as, the fact that, he is a little bit down there in the depth chart. I've got him at 8. Yeah, Sam Laporta, Luke Lachey, obviously are going to be the main factors there. I think he might not contribute as much this year, but again, it's tight end U. Maybe I did rank him a little low. I don't know. Projecting future wise, he could be really good.
Yeah. Number 8 for me, I have TJ Hall. I just, I think he's going to be a good corner for us, but in terms of just the depth that we already have there with Riley Moss, Sam Laporta, you said Sam Laporta, so I was thinking Sam Laporta in my head. Jamari Harris,
Yeah.
Terry Roberts, and then, if Cooper DeJean, plays some corner, right? So you just got a lot of talent there. I think he's going to be a factor maybe on special teams. He might see some action here or there if, we have, 5 defensive backs out there, a nickel type of defense, versus a team that likes to air it out like a Purdue or something like that. But other than that, I just don't see him making that big of a, contribute that much this year, but you'll see him from time to time. Number 7.
Number 7, I have TJ Hall. So kind
Okay.
of just piggybacking off of what you said. I think there's a ton of depth in that position in the secondary as a whole. It's going to be, I think, maybe a little tough for him to see a ton of playing time, but obviously, he's a promising player. Looks good so far. But yeah, I've got him at 7.
For number 7 for me, I have Jazuan. I think that's how you spell or pronounce his first name. Jazuan Patterson, running back from Florida, another freshman guy. I think he'll see some action. I think what's going to happen if they can do this, I don't know if it's going to be manageable because it just all depends on if someone gets hurt. But I think either him or Caleb will end up redshirting this year. So you can play up to 4 games. So like both guys are going to play up to 4 games, but one of the two is probably going to redshirt. And I have a feeling it's probably going to be Patterson. Now he had a really good kids day, but just overall from what I've heard is Caleb Johnson's just a stud for, been a stud so far. So I have him at number 7. I think we're going to see him from time to time. Now, if, like I said, if someone gets hurt, then we might see him a little bit more. But if everyone kind of stays healthy, he'll probably play in 4 games here or there, and then we'll probably redshirt him. But I think he has the potential. I mean, he like I said, he looked good kids day, so we'll just have to see. Number 6.
Number 6, I got Jazzy and Patterson. So
Okay. We're going right down.
Again,
right?
ton of we're one off so far. Obviously, again, great depth at the running back position. I think he has a chance if he gets an opportunity, just like anybody. He could maybe see a little bit more action. I just think there's some guys ahead of him right now that have a little bit bigger role in the offense, especially, at the running back spot so far. So I've got him at 6.
Number 6 for me, I have Drew Stevens, kicker. I forgot what he either went 7 for 7 or 8 for 8. I know the other kicker did good. So this is the thing though, that we have 2 kickers. So it's like, okay, how are we gonna do this? Are they gonna split time? Are they gonna one person gonna, if one person's maybe better at kicking long distance, will he be the person? Because I know we did that a few years ago when we had
With
2
like
kickers.
Racinos and
Was it Caleb Shudak? I don't
no,
know.
Keith Duncan. It was
Keith
Duncan
yeah.
and Racinos. I remember
Yeah.
for a while there.
Yeah. So I think,
Yeah.
I think he's gonna obviously kick a lot this year. And judging from Kids Day, he had a great day, and so did the other. I can't think of the other guy's name on the top of my head right now. But
Aaron Blum.
What's his name?
Aaron Blum.
Oh, yep. So I think they're gonna probably split time more than likely, especially if both of them, do a decent job. But I think he's gonna contribute this year for us. So number 5.
Number 5, Drew Stevens. So this is kind of funny, but no. Again, he's the backup kicker right now. Will he? I know like this. Maybe he'll do kickoffs. Maybe he'll do something a little different.
Exactly.
Again, Aaron Blum. Both of them never kicked before. If one goes south, we have another one in the makings to be able to kick there too. So I've got him at 5.
Number 5 for me is Jacob Bostic. I fully expect him just because of receiver depth, especially if Nico's out a few games. You have Keegan back practicing, which I guess we didn't really talk about, but seeing him back in practice is great news. I think a week ago at this time when we were recording, he was still not playing and we were having some doubts, some concerns. So it's good to see him back out there. But even with him and then having obviously Arlen, you still have a lot of area where you got guys that need to step up. And I think he's one of them. I don't think they're going to redshirt him this year. I really don't, because I think they're going to need him. They're going to need him this year. And he has the athletic ability. I mean, he looks pretty good. He's 6'3", little underweight, but I think, he kind of reminds me of Emir Smith-Marset freshman year, came in, and he was kind of underweight, but, he contributed. I know that week 2 game against Iowa State, he has some nice catches on the road in Ames. So I think Jacob Bostic's going to have a pretty good year for us. Are we up to number 4?
Yep. Number 4, I have Caleb Johnson. So, this is all has to do with a little bit of what I think will happen this season, combined with, the future prospect of them being, where they're at in terms of how I think they'll be for Iowa. I think he's too talented not to see the field. I think just this year, he might not see as much as he's wanted to. I know he's kind of in interviews I've kind of seen he's looking to really get a lot of playing time as much as he can, obviously, like any player, but he thinks he can play. And obviously I think like I said, he looks the part. I think in future years, we're going to see him kind of flourish. I just don't know about this year specifically. So I've got him at number 4.
I have him actually at number 4 as well. I just think, like, you guys go to back to last year, we had Tyler Goodson at number 1, Ivory Kelly Martin, which he was a great guy. I'm glad he's gone. I mean, he's done. Like I said, off the field, I mean, he was a really good leader, but he just did not do enough. I mean, he fumbled a lot, and I'm not trying to, bash on him.
No.
But I'm kind of glad that he graduated.
It was time. It was time.
Yeah, and so you had him, and then really that third guy, which was pretty much Gavin, saw the field time to time, because really all year we stayed pretty healthy, with Goodson and Ivory Kelly Martin. So if Gavin and LaShawn stay healthy, I think Caleb's going to kind of do what Gavin did last year. You're going to see him from time to time, not all that often. And so that's why I have him at number 4. I think he has the potential to be the number 1 guy. He could be number 1, but I just don't think he's going to play that much. And going back to what I said, I think either him or Patterson is going to redshirt this year, as long as the William guys stay healthy. Number 3.
Number 3, I have Aaron Graves. So, I'm not going to lie, like before the season, even before really Kids Day, I didn't know much about Aaron Graves, but he had a hell of a scrimmage that day. And, I think he's proven that he's going to be in the rotation this year. I think he's he's a very solid player, and he's going to be really, really good in the future. I think Ferentz was quoted as saying it'd be stupid to redshirt him. So, meaning he's going to play. So, I don't know how much he'll play. Obviously, a ton of depth at the defensive line. 9, 10 guys, something like the 8 to 10 guys. I think we've talked about so far. But no, I think he's going to be really, really good. Someone again that kind of was out of the blue, before last week when we talked about him, and then obviously doing my homework on it this week. So,
number 3 for me, I have Addison Ostrenga. I know you had him at number 8. The reason why I have him at number 3 is because with the receiver issues, I do think we're going to deploy a lot of 2-3 tight end sets. And so I think he's going to see a lot of action this year. Now we have that other guy, Stelianos, I think is his name, that transfer, that kind of a bigger dude, that he's probably going to be more like a run blocker for us. Addison Ostrenga is going to be coming in and actually probably contributing in the passing game a little bit. I know he did that decent amount in the Kids Day scrimmage, and Ferentz has nothing but good things to say about him. And I think he will. I think he'll play more than Stelianos will. I think, like I said, Stelianos will probably be more of just a guy that'll come in because, once again, I mean, he's 260. Stelianos is, so hell, he's almost an offensive tackle at that point. So, but I think Addison. Now, yes, I get it. We have Lachey and Laporta, but I think, especially if we deploy 3 tight end sets, I mean, he's going to be the third guy. So I
didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, number 2, Jacob Bostic. I never thought I'd say that, but you hit the nail on the head. Colin, I think we're one injury away at the wide receiver position from him probably starting, or even getting a ton of playing time. Yeah. And obviously, we talk about Nico Reganey early on in the season. He's injured. We've got Deontay Vines injured till midseason. Yeah. Keegan Johnson coming back from an injury. Transfers, we talked about that. The wide receiver position's taken a little bit of a hit here, especially early on, and I think he could have a huge role early on, especially knocking on wood right now. But if somebody else goes down, he might need to step up in a big way. And I think this year, early on, he could have a big impact.
Speaking of Nico, though, like I'm surprised. I mean, I look at message boards.
Any good news?
There has been nothing, and usually, so that's why I'm hoping that maybe, what came out is just kind of one of those things where, hopefully, maybe he is hurt, but maybe, the whole broken foot thing I have not heard. I know, this is kind of off subject here, Tyler, but one of the guys I know that has kind of an inside source with the program, one of my coworkers on last Friday, I told him about it. He's like, oh yeah, I didn't hear anything. So he texted this guy and he hadn't heard anything about it. So maybe, maybe he is hurt, but maybe it's not as bad as maybe what Colby, because I think Colby said something where he heard it was a broken foot. I just feel like that news would have came out by now. I'm looking at the boards right now, and Sean Bach, 24/7, had yesterday, actually August 23rd, 2 wideouts I've heard good buzz about, ... are Jacob Bostic and Alec Wick. It sounds like these two have really stepped up as of late and are continuing to get better. Of course, it has to carry over the field, but these two have certainly stepped up and are looking the part at wideout. So, I mean, that's good to hear. I mean, we need those guys. Yeah. I mean, we know what we're going to get with Keegan. We know what we're going to get with Arlen Brutes, but if you can get, and then hopefully Nico Reganey's, back before, not too long. And then, you need, because I always think with the tight ends that we have this year, maybe not as many, but I always like to think that you need at least 4 or 5 reliable, decent receivers. I mean, that's kind of the area that I look at. Now with a lot of tight ends, maybe you can get by with just 3, but I still think you need like 4 or 5. And if those two look the part, there's your 4 and 5. So.
Yep. And again, maybe not even, and it is about injury, but also just, we need that more depth. And I think he provides it. I think he could have a good impact. And going on to the season. So
number 2, I have, of course, Xavier Wampa. Sure, he's your number. Well, he would be your number 1 because you just issued your number 2. Not much to really say about him. I think he's going to be a stud for us. I think he's a player that we have so much talent on the defensive side that it's going to be hard for him to start, but you can't keep him off the field. So you're going to see him on the field a lot. And he's going to make plays. I mean, you look at the Kids Day, he had an interception and then another like tip ball that led to an interception. I mean, the dude just makes plays all over the field. So I'm very excited for him. I think everyone was the day that he committed. You just knew that this guy was gonna contribute big things for Iowa. And yeah, not really
Yeah.
much more to say. So
Yeah. Number
you're
one,
number
Xavier
one.
Nwampa. Yeah. Again, you said it perfectly. I think, he's one of the best recruits Iowa's gotten in a long time. And, obviously stayed home, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And, he's just too good not to see the field, I think, even this year. And like you said, you look at a scrimmage and he's already making plays.
Just
Like
making
it
plays,
just,
like
you just know he's just a natural ball hawk in the secondary. And Phil Parker's going to utilize him in some creative ways, maybe the cash position, maybe the safety position. But he'll see playing time. And obviously this is something I'm projecting him to be like one of the, probably the best freshmen out of this class, in my opinion, that is, we could see, 3-4 years down the road. So,
oh yeah. And it's nice because he won't redshirt, but with obviously football, you gotta stay for 3 years. So it's nice knowing that we're gonna have
well,
Xavier for 3 more years, unless that
and
changes.
and I was going to say, and you were saying maybe selfishly we would hope that maybe he would get redshirted, but
Yeah, I think
obviously,
Colby said that, but I just don't see that happening. I mean, you just can't. I
right?
mean, with a guy that good, or if he's
No,
gonna that much potential, and if it translates, and so far it looks like
right.
it has, you can't keep him off the field.
You want to put him in
Yeah.
the games now where it matters too, because we're in
Yep.
win now mode just as much as
Exactly.
any season. So, yeah,
Number one for me is Aaron Graves.
yeah, okay, nice.
Max Preps National
Yeah,
Athlete of the Year from last year. He was a 4-star. From what I've read, from what I've heard, is he should have been a 5-star, but he came from a small school. He just didn't have much, and that's when it comes, with star
national
rankings.
attention.
Yeah, just not enough star national attention. The dude is gonna be a stud for us, and usually Ferentz, and this is one thing with Ferentz is, like you have like Scott Frost who just says a bunch of just bullshit and just kind of a
Shots
yeah,
fired.
and with Ferentz, he's pretty like when it comes to his team, he doesn't really say much, right? Like he's always
No,
like, "Yeah, we got work to do," this
he
blah blah
doesn't
blah.
gloat. No,
Yes,
it's pretty by the book. It's
and
pretty Belichickian for the
for
most
him,
part.
yeah, exactly, and for him to
Yeah,
like after Kids Day, pretty much just rave about Aaron Graves, and
yeah,
pretty much said right there, like, "Yeah, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to redshirt this guy." Um, and from what I've kind of heard, like once again on message boards, different things like that, different podcasts, is he has a very good shot of and he probably won't just because we have 2 good guys or like guys that should be starters, but like they said they would not surprise us if like at some point down the season like he's starting at defensive tackle, because yeah, he's like that good. But that defensive line, like I said, God, it's just we are, starting for Joe Evans, Logan Lee, um, drawing a blank, Shannon or Noah
Noah
Shannon.
Shannon.
Yep, Noah
Yeah,
Shannon, and then Wagner, and then the backups. I mean, like Lucas Van Ness, you have Aaron Graves, you have Jeremiah Pittman, you have Yaya Black, you have Deontay Craig. Like it's just no wonder. I mean, they say we're going to use 8 to 10 guys. It's like, well, yeah, we are going to use 8 to 10 guys because we just have that much depth back there, or on the defensive line. So
right.
just looking forward to it. I think Aaron, just he's going to bring that energy. I mean, he's going to be like a Lucas Van Ness. I don't think he will. I mean, like I personally don't think he will start at all this year just because we have other guys, but he's going to come in. And I think he's going to be a disruptor. So I'm really looking forward to him. And that's kind of the reason why I have him a little ahead of Xavier. I think you could maybe make the case tied for number 1, but I really do think he's probably going to play a little bit more just because I don't know, like the secondary, if the secondary pans out, it's like, well, how many plays is he going to come in versus like Aaron Graves? Like he could come in for an entire series, right? Let,
Right.
Logan Lee or let Noah Shannon or whoever take a series break or whatever. Cause that happens on defense line. I mean, defense line, you get freaking tired. I mean, that's why you need a lot of depth there because it's, especially if you're out there for 10, 15 plays, just bam, 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 bam.
Every play.
Yeah, it gets very tiring. So,
For sure.
so yeah, I think he's going to play a lot this year, and I think he's going to be a stud. So there we have it. Those are the 8 freshmen. This is why. And I was listening to yesterday. It was actually a pretty good It was a long podcast. It was some random podcast I was listening to, and they had Sean, what's his name? Sean Bach and the other guy from 24/7, they were on there. God, what the hell is his name? I forgot what his name is, but they were talking about how, with Iowa, because like they obviously do a lot of recruiting, or they do a lot of recruiting stories. And like they were saying, like the last couple of years, like how good like Iowa has recruited, like top 25 nationally. And, back then it's just, we weren't getting guys like this. I mean, we were finishing, top 50 nationally. And there was a reason why we didn't really play much freshmen back in the day. Now it's like it's almost like you can't afford to not play these guys because they're that good. And so
Or they'll leave.
Yeah.
Because they know they're that good.
Yeah. It's a good problem to have because like they said, not only are we recruiting at a high level, but we're still developing guys too. So it's like, you're kind of like, two things at one, right? So it's a good problem to have, of course. So, all right, let's dive into some over unders for this year, and we'll just kind of see. Obviously, this is really tough. I would never bet these just because it's so hard to judge but it's just kind of fun to do. So let's kind of get into this here. We'll start with Spencer Petras. So we'll start with over 2,150 yards. We'll start with that actually. If he can get over 2,150 for yardage this year.
Is that included with on your screen? So it says Petras 2,150 yards and 18.5 touchdowns?
No, let's just do the yards first and then we'll do the touchdowns.
Oh.
Yeah, let's just do the yards first. I have to see what he averaged, or what did he do last year? Do you remember?
Let me do the touchdowns because that's kind of what I focused mainly on. I didn't know if this was a combined stat or whatnot.
Yeah, that's fine.
For the touchdowns, I have to go under until I can see that are able to put the ball in the end zone, right? Especially through the air. Like, so 2020, he had 9 touchdowns, and that was considered his better year. Last year, he had 10. We haven't seen that giant step forward in the pass game yet. If I'm a betting man, I have to go under on that. The yards, what do you have? Like 1,800 last year, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, he had 880.
So I do think the passing game is going to be better. Everything that we've talked about should be better. Whether that's game planning scheming with Brian Ferentz, getting guys open, getting the ball to a guy like Keegan Johnson, which is obvious, I would hope.
Getting tight ends more involved.
Tight ends more involved, maybe even the running backs again. I would say over, because I do think he had a bad year last year and it could only be better. And it's not a big difference there. So I would go over on yards, under on touchdowns.
For how bad and think about it, like he didn't play in like 3 games. Remember that?
Right. That's why I'm going.
I
totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, he had close to 1,900 yards last year, and that was not playing like 3 games. And he should easily get over that. I mean, especially if he gets a little bit better. Our offense is, just overall better offensive line, like we were talking about earlier in the episode.
Yeah,
should easily get over. Now, touchdowns, I agree with you. He was at 10 last year. So you're telling me, he has to get to have 9 more, and that should be accomplished. I mean, that's their main focus this year is, when you get in the red zone, converting red zone drives to touchdowns. And if you can do that, I mean, because there was a lot of times last year we got to the red zone, but we couldn't do anything then. And so he should easily get over 18. But like I said, until, I see it to believe it. I mean, 2020 had 9 touchdowns, but we only played 8 games that year.
Right.
So if that was a full season, he would have had 5 more games. He would have got awfully close to 18. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, last year it was, only 10.
Took a step back. So it's not a lot of confidence for me.
Yep.
But yeah.
I'm gonna go over on the yardage, and then I'm gonna go under on touchdowns.
So we agree. Yeah.
Over under 7.5 receptions for Jacob Bostic.
I mean, what I just basically, said in my rankings of the top players, I would have to go. I put over, but just because I do think he'll see some playing time. And again, wide receivers get nicked here and there during the game. Maybe not for a full game. Maybe it is for more than a game. Yeah. I do think he will play, and I could see him getting over 7.5 receptions, in a season. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to think I think Keegan Johnson finished with only 18 receptions last year.
Yeah.
It's just so hard because
it's hard.
It is not much at all. But then
I'm just projecting our the way we're structured right now, the way that we do have some injuries.
Yeah.
I think maybe he could get some opportunities early. Obviously, that means that it's a dependent position. Is Petrus going to trust him? Going to throw to him? I don't know, but I went over, I guess.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna. God, it's so hard because it's like 7.5 is really not much, but knowing like our offense, we don't really, get the receivers that involved. And with this year, we're gonna get tight ends probably more. I'm just gonna say under. And I don't know. I mean, hopefully it is over. I'm saying hopefully it is, but for right now, I'm just gonna go under. And that's just not just trying to be a disagreement with you. It's one of those things too where it's just like you gotta see it to kind of see how much he's actually gonna play.
For sure.
Over under 350 rushing yards for Caleb Johnson.
This is a tough one. I think Caleb Johnson's a stud. I think he will see the field. The question is how much. He's got, according to the depth chart, a couple of guys ahead of him. I put under just due to the depth. But again, all it takes is a running back to get injured and he'll see the field a lot more and probably easily get that. So I'm just going to go on the fact that, I don't know all our running backs so far. It seems right now are healthy. So until that happens, I'm going to say under.
I'm going to go under too. Kind of the same thing. Just if he gets over 350 yards, that means he averages about 26 yards per game, which isn't much, but there's going to be a couple games, as long as everyone stays healthy, there's going to be a couple games where he's not going to really play that much. And so is he going to get to that, total yardage? There might be a game where he gets 50 yards, but then there might be a game that he only, plays a little bit and he only gets 10 yards, right? And so it kind of, counters. And so for right now, I'm going under. Over under 3.5 sacks for Aaron Graves. We were just talking about him and how good he is. So I mean, I guess
I have over. I do think, I had him at number 3. I think he's too talented, like we said, not to play. You had him at number 1. I think this year he's going to get, like you mentioned, a decent amount of playing time because we're going to be rotating a lot of guys. And so he will get his fair share of opportunities, I believe. And so, I think he could have like a sneaky good year. And I do think, I will go over on the sacks actually.
Yeah. Well, and then I don't know. I mean, do you count like half sacks? Because if that's the case,
that counts.
So I'm going to go easily over. I think, especially we were just talking, he's probably not going to start and he's probably not going to play that many snaps. So he's going to have fresh legs. He's going to be able to go in there and just dominate like a third down, kind of like AJ Epinesa did back in 2017, 2018, maybe, where that's kind of what he did. And so I'm going to go over as well. 1,680 rushing yards between the two William brothers. I always say William brothers just because they have the same last name.
This is a little bit of a tough one, but as much as I think the offensive line's improved, I think we want to get back to running the football. I hope that's what, we can accomplish this season. I have over because it needs to be better for everything else to be better in this Iowa, this Brian Ferentz system. So I think we have to run the ball effectively. And I hope that with the talented running backs, the Williams brothers that they are, I think they can accomplish that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over as well. I remember like the other day, so 16. So that means that we have to average 129 yards per game, which once again, if that's your identity and if our offensive line is better, I mean, we should get to that because like I said, there's gonna be some games where it's gonna be way more than that. There's gonna be some games where it's not, so it's gonna like balance each other out. Right. And so
it was a tough one for me.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know because it's like, once again, it's like we just, in 5 years, your hope is that we do look better, but you just go back the last 5 years and our running game, it really hasn't. I'm going to go under, by not a lot, but I'm going to go under for this one. Just because I already know there will be a few games where we're not going to be able to run for shit, like the Wisconsin game, where just because we just always just try to do the same thing. And so I'm going to go under for that one. But pretty close. I think it's going to be pretty damn close. Cooper DeJean, punt return, tight end, or touchdowns over 1.5.
I went under. It's so hard to predict, right? Like, I think our special teams is really good. I think Cooper DeJean, if he's going to be the returner, has an opportunity to do that because he's a freak athlete.
Yeah.
It's so hard to predict like special teams touchdowns and stuff like that. So if I was a betting man, I would say under.
I would say under 2 because especially like punt returns just so hard. I mean, kick returns a little bit
I mean,
easier.
kick return. I was gonna say if it was a kick return, I would go over
Yeah,
probably.
but
I mean, the chances are you get 2 in a season. Yeah, but punt return, it's tough.
yeah, it's tough. And so if he gets one, great. But and I think he might get one. I mean, there might be a game. I mean, hell, I could see. I know John Miller. I think that's what he had a tweet the other day where he dreamed of like we get like a 3-and-out or something, or and then they have to punt or something, and we take one to the house. And like I could see that like against a team like South Dakota State, but I just don't see it happening very often. So yeah, I got to go under. Interception totals, 20.5. Last year we were at 25, and that was, an unbelievable season. So can we match that? Who knows? So 20.5.
God, that's tough. I mean, the fact that it's even set at 20.5, I think is pretty incredible. With Phil Parker and his scheme and the amount of playmakers in the secondary that we have, I think there's going to be a ton of opportunities again. Obviously, got to capitalize on those opportunities. Got to maybe have a little luck involved, with interceptions and turnovers and stuff like that going your way. I put over. I don't see any reason why we couldn't have a similar type of season. Maybe not 25, but 21. I don't know, in that same range. It's really, again, this is it's a pretty risky bet, but I could see it.
It
wouldn't surprise me.
It's kind of like the counter of what we do with like the offense. See it to believe it, but this is like, okay, I mean, it happens every year. So
that's
it's
what
like,
I mean.
I'm going to,
We're always up there in turnovers, in terms of like, I think nationally, we're always up there.
Yeah. So I got to go over too.
Yeah.
Arlen Bruce, 40 receptions.
I went under. Again, I just think how much does Spencer Petras throw to the wide receivers in general? Not a lot.
Yeah.
How good is our pass game going to be? I don't know. Again, it's something I have to see to believe. Arlen Bruce is going to have a ton of opportunities, though.
Yeah, he is.
If anything, he would have a better chance of getting an over. So maybe in my mind than even like Keegan Johnson's total, just because he's going to be that second guy that defenses aren't going to focus in on as much. So he would have more opportunity, I think.
I agree.
I'm going to say under.
I agree. I mean, look at last year. I was just looking. He had actually 25 receptions for being a freshman. Yeah. I mean, 25. Right. So you're telling me, okay, only 15 more. I could see it. For right now, I'm going to go under as well. But yeah, for sure. I think he should
have more opportunities.
Yeah. And I think he's going to have more receptions than Keegan Johnson will by the end of the year. I really do. Just because, like the opportunity wise. And then, if, Keegan Johnson, hopefully he stays healthy. But if not, Arlen Bruce is going to have to be the guy. So I think it's kind of really close. It's a tough one. Because like you said, you got to 25 last year. And that was being a freshman. You would hope that, it would go up. So Keegan Johnson at 35. I think he was at 18 receptions last year. But I do think we're going to utilize them more, hopefully.
I wrote down, if we're smart, we'll utilize him more. And it should be over. Now, the question is it? That's the question that remains to be seen. Well, according to my logic that I just kind of said, I would still have to maybe go under, just because I do think defenses are going to key in on him. Yeah. They're going to try to take him away, make Spencer find a different receiver to go to. So I think it's close. He's 35? It should be. It should be over. I don't know. Again, maybe it's wishful thinking.
As long as he stays healthy and plays like every game, I'm going to go over, just because of the fact that at 35 receptions, if we play 13 games, hopefully
I know.
Hopefully we play 14 games, but let's just say we
play
13.
Math is simple.
It's 2.6 catches per game. So you literally have to get just the 3 catches a game.
Right.
Which, I mean, is that really that hard to do? Again, you should be utilizing your best player way more than 3. I mean, hell, you should average 5 to 6 receptions a game, if not more. And so I'm going to go over just a simple fact that I'm just hopeful that happens. And I'm really wanting that to happen, because once again, going back to 3 episodes ago, when I was like, this dude, like going back and watching games from last year, makes plays out of nothing. And so if you utilize them more, you're going to have way more opportunities to just see freakish type plays. 75 receptions for all tight ends.
I went over. All tight ends is something that Iowa, it's a staple in Iowa's offense, utilizing the tight end. And even now, I'm more confident. You made a great point about, Addison Ostrenga, especially if you go to like 3 tight end sets. There's more opportunities for a third tight end to get catches. So I'm pretty confident in an over on that one.
Yep, I'm going over as well. Once again, you do the math. You just have to get to 6 receptions a game, and when you have Sam Laporta, Luke Lachey, Addison, and then possibly Stelianos if he goes out. But yeah, I mean that's 6 receptions a game. If that's gonna be your main focus this year, getting the tight ends involved, 2-3 tight end sets. I mean that should be easy. So I'm going over. Yep. Petrus, and this is just one here, over 58.5% completion percentage.
I will believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
This is a common theme.
Yep.
With sort of the offense, sort of the passing game. We're 57% the last 2 years, 57 point whatever. We just seem like we cannot get over that damn hump. We want to see, we talked about it, 60% should not be out of this world to achieve.
No.
But again, it's something that we're clearly struggling with. And again, I think it'll be close. It'll be somewhere in that, if you do the math and you look at what history tells us, it's going to be around 57, 58.5 shouldn't be that hard, but I'm going to say under till we do.
I 100% agree with you, but I'm going over just because I do think
I like to hear it
with the off, like if the offense is really going to be more simplified, and that offensive, I can't think of his name. Colby brought him up last week. I knew about him, but I can't think of his name. But the analyst quarterbacks coach that's been working with Petrus. He was a coach at Wisconsin. You have him there. If you do use your tight ends more, I think you have a higher completion rate. I think just throwing to your tight ends, I believe. So it shouldn't be hard to get to 60%. So in that fact, I'm going over. Right. Lucas Van Ness over 9.5 sacks.
I mean, God, if he takes a leap forward, which I think we all expect him to. He had 7 last year. 9.5. I struggle with this one too. And I think maybe me and you, this is one of them that we maybe talked about before the show. I actually went under just because of the depth that we have in the D line, the guys, the opportunities that players are going to get, and the fact that, he could potentially at some point start, but he currently doesn't. So maybe a little less opportunity maybe than say a starter, but it would not shock me if he just explodes and has double-digit sacks this year either. It really wouldn't.
So I'm going over just because I do think he's going to have the year like 2018 AJ Epinesa had, where AJ did not start because we still had Parker Hesse, Anthony Nelson, so he did not start for us. So he came in once again, second, third downs. He came in, when Parker or Anthony got tired or whatever, and he had fresh legs. He didn't play very much, and so he had 10.5 sacks. And then the next year, 2019, we all thought, oh my God, this guy's starting now. He's going to have double the amount of sacks that he had last year. Well, he had more, but only one more. I mean, he was at 11.5 sacks. So it's because he started and he was playing every single down, and so it's just a lot harder. Your energy, right? Your stamina. It's not there when you're playing every single down. And so he actually only had one more sack, even though he played way more snaps 2019. So 2018, he didn't play as many snaps and he had 10.5 sacks. And so that's what I feel like Lucas Van Ness is going to do if he doesn't start at all this year, which he might start at some point. But if he doesn't, if he just kind of comes in, kind of like what AJ did back in 2018, I think he should get over 9.5. So I'm going to go over. And then the last one, let's just do like leading running back, 750 yards. So obviously before we talk total, but the leading running back over 750.
This is tough. I mean, I do think a lot of guys are going to get opportunities this year to split carries. I am going to go over for whoever that leading running back is. I think when we have a guy that's running the football effectively, I think we are smart enough to know that, we want him in as much as possible. And if he's doing his thing, we're going to kind of make sure that, we let him do his thing. So 750, not a terribly high number for a top running back. I'm going to go over.
I'm going over as well because I think at some point we're going to find out who the main guy is going to be. I think both of them are going to play a lot, but there's going to be at some point where it's like, okay, this guy's clearly a little bit better, and this guy is going to be our main guy. And whether it's Gavin, whether it's LaShawn, I don't know. But once we get that figured out, I think that said person is going to play a little bit more. And so once again, you do the math, 750 divided by 13, hopefully 14, but just let's say 13 games, it's about 57 yards a game, which I think is very manageable. So I'm going to go over 750 yards. So that is it for over-unders. Just kind of fun. We'll see how we obviously do by the end of the year. I'm sure some of them will hit. Some of them we will be way wrong.
And maybe we'll revisit that after once the season ends. Maybe we can check up how we did. That would be cool.
Hopefully we are way wrong on like the things that we were like, and see it to believe it. So like, for example, like the completion percentage for you, hopefully you're way
I want to be wrong. I want to be terribly wrong. I want them to freaking prove me right.
Yeah,
that's all I want to know.
Or like Cooper DeJean under 1.5. Like, hopefully I'm way wrong. Hopefully he has a shit ton of punt returns. But who knows? So let's before we end this podcast, let's go over the 2 games this weekend. Well, there's more than 2 games this weekend, but 2 kind of bigger games. Week 0 action. I love it. I love that college football. I think they started this back in maybe 2019. I think it was the weekend that we went to Vegas. I think that was the first year that they started this like week 0. And I like it. It's like, you don't have to play many games. They don't have to be necessarily good games. I mean, think about this, Tyler. You and I are getting pumped up to watch 2 3-9 teams from last year go head to head. And we're getting pumped up for that. Think about that. So like, I don't care who plays in week 0, just put some games on. And, because for me, I'm getting so pumped up for the Iowa football season that I'm getting pumped up in general.
Well, and real quick, it's almost nice that like Iowa doesn't we got this like little buffer between, before the Iowa game to kind of get us ready. And it's almost like we're super excited, but there's like no pressure because it's not an Iowa game. But it's a great feeling. Honestly.
Don't get me wrong. I just said I love week 0, but I swear to God, if Iowa ever has to play on week 0, I would be pissed. So it's like,
I was going to say,
it would not be, I would not like that.
Catch 22 there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But let's talk a little bit about the Northwestern Nebraska game. I know we kind of talked about both schools a couple, probably actually maybe the first podcast when we did the over-unders for Big Ten West. The point spread right now is at -13. It was actually at one point, at -12 Nebraska, and then it went to 12.5. Now it's up to 13. So pretty much that tells you that a lot of people were picking Nebraska, so they're kind of moving the number a little bit higher. Yeah. Over under is 50.5. So we all kind of remember from last year what happened. 56-7 blowout in Lincoln. Both teams finished 3-9. One team though had a little bit better of a 3-9 season, if you can say that. But I mean, let's face it, Nebraska, every single game lost by single digits, which is like, I don't know. I remember seeing something with the first time in so long. It's been like, or maybe it was like the first time ever that's happened. I remember it's something along those lines. So Northwestern, my eyes, they have a great set of running backs, Cam Porter, Evan Hall, which I know one of those guys is coming back from injury. I know one of them tore their ACL last year. Was it Cam? Porter. Okay. So he's back this year. Oline should be a bright spot for them. I'm not saying it's going to be best offensive line in the Big Ten, but it should be better. And it's centered around left tackle Peter Skornonski, who could be a first-round draft pick. They obviously need wide receivers to step up. I think if they get that, it's kind of like Iowa. I think just offenses overall is going to be a lot better. Defensively, they got a few guys in the transfer portal on defensive line. Last year, their defense was atrocious. It ranked 119th in the nation run defense, so they got to fix that. If Northwestern can slow this thing down, keep it low scoring, make it about whoever screws up first, I think they'll be in good shape because all the pressure is on the other side. For Nebraska, then, just a little bit about them. Obviously, a lot more talent than Northwestern has. Starts with quarterback Casey Thompson, good set of receivers, Trey Palmer, right? Defense got some transfers. I think they ended up with 16 transfers, and the next Big Ten school to have was like 7. So they had more than double the amount. And so obviously that raises some questions like, can they, will they be able to mesh? You got guys from Alabama, you got guys from TCU, you have guys from all different backgrounds, right? And are they going to all be able to, especially week
make it
one
work.
or week 0, right? I think the biggest change is obviously the style of offense. Mark Whipple coming over from Pitt. We all know what happened last year. Great offensive coordinator. last year with Kenny Pickett, quarterback who went on to play for the Steelers, stud. So you kind of have to sit there and be, okay, was that just kind of a 1-year wonder with Kenny? Because I think anyone that coaches that good of a quarterback is going to look pretty good. Or, is he actually a really good offensive coordinator? I mean, we'll see it to believe it come this Saturday. So, and then with them too, yeah, they're just passing game is going to be a lot more dangerous. I did not realize that Northwestern secondary did not pick off anybody in 2021. Like that doesn't even seem like we had 25 interceptions.
Wow, I did not know
none
that.
of their secondary that's coming back this year had 1 interception last year. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah, isn't that just nuts?
That is wild.
Really, the two questions it comes down to: okay, so can they combine the style, the toughness, they're usually focused and disciplined under Pat Fitzgerald to get back to what they kind of were. You go back to 2018. They were pretty good. 2019, they kind of fell off. 2020, they were good. And then 2021, they kind of fell off. Again, can they kind of keep this trend of 1 year good, 1 year bad, 1 year good? And then for Nebraska, can they finally get past the struggles of shooting themselves in the foot? Because last year, a lot of their losses were because of that. So, Tyler, who are you taking and why, and how do you see this game ending?
Colin, I believe that this game, will be closer than 13 points. The spread, like you said, 13 points in favor of Nebraska. I think it's going to be actually a little bit closer. You got week 0. You've got Nebraska, who I believe, 100% of the pressure is on to win. Not only win for the sake of their coach, who they, need to win. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure the dude's gone.
Yeah.
But also, they, like you said, they got to prove that they can win some of these games that, they're not only supposed to win, but the close ones that they weren't able to last year. So I think all the pressure's on them. I believe that Pat Fitzgerald's a great coach and great motivator, one of the best motivators in college football, especially for, not a great team. And so it would not shock me if this game ends up being closer than 13. I've actually got Nebraska winning 24-14. I think Northwestern's defense keeps it a little bit lower scoring, but I don't believe their offense has enough firepower right now to put up many points. I think Nebraska, they make a couple more plays over the course of the game that maybe gets them a double-digit victory, but I do think it's closer than 13.
Yeah,
I have them winning by 10.
I think Northwestern will slow down this game at times. Not saying the entire game, but at times they will slow this game down, similar to what Iowa does to most opponents. I think Northwestern has a running game more so Nebraska to control the game.
Right.
So kind of going back to what you said, that's why I think this game will be close. But I think in the second half, Nebraska will quote unquote kind of turn it on. You'll see some big plays, right? And I just don't think Northwestern can match that. The big play moments that Nebraska might bring to the table with Mark Whipple at offensive coordinator. And like I said, you got Trey Palmer, you got some of these guys, Casey Thompson at quarterback. And so in the second half, like we might go into halftime, and it's 7-7 or it's really close, but then second half, Nebraska might have a couple big play moments. So I'm going to take Nebraska 28-17. This is actually a change. I don't know if you remember, but a couple weeks ago, I actually had Northwestern winning this game. The more I think about it, the more I do like Nebraska. Once again, it would not surprise me if they somehow lost this game, because we have to keep in mind. I mean, we're talking a Nebraska team from last year. I mean, can they finally get past their struggles of, like I said, shooting themselves in the foot? And you got to remember, this game isn't in their backyard, right? It is across the freaking country and across
a different country.
World.
Yeah, right.
And so,
true.
It's just one of those things where, and then everything new offense, right? New offensive coordinator, a bunch of new guys. I mean, will it all mesh week 0? And it's just hard to think now, because here's the thing with Nebraska, and their fans do get kind of annoying. I get it. At the same time, they are very loyal. And so every year they kind of go in the season thinking that they are going to be really good. And that's fine. I mean, once again, they're, very passionate with their school. And I think a lot of people joke with them, they'd like to drink the Kool-Aid. And so last year, you go in the Illinois game, I think, and we would have to go back, but I think we both probably easily took Nebraska. Everyone just thought Nebraska should easily win this game. Brett Bielema, this is his first career game at Illinois. They didn't really have much talent, and everyone just kind of thought Nebraska should easily win this game. And what happens is Illinois wins, right? Because they just looked a little bit more disciplined. They didn't do stupid things. And so when it comes to coaching,
Yep.
like I do, like I trust Pat Fitzgerald way more than I do Scott Frost. And like someone made a good point. Who do you trust bringing an entire team across the country, across the world? Who do you trust more? A guy like Pat Fitzgerald or a guy like Scott Frost to keep the guys focused, right? Keep the guys like,
Right.
and who do you trust more? I mean, you trust Pat Fitzgerald, clearly. So
100%.
once again, it would not surprise me if Northwestern ends up winning this game. But for right now, I'm taking Nebraska. That's why I love the Northwestern plus 13. And that's why I'm going to actually bet this game on Saturday, is because not only do I say to keep it close, yeah, for sure. Now, here's the thing. If Nebraska actually comes in and actually kicks ass and wins 35-10 or 41-14, I'm going to say right now, like, I mean, I know, don't get me wrong, Northwestern is not very good, but I'm going to say watch out for Nebraska to be able to kind of, do that where they're going all the way to Dublin. Everybody's kind of new things. And if they look disciplined, they look like, they've kind of got past shooting themselves in the foot. I think they're going to have a good year. So we're all going to know this come this Saturday. And this is why I'm so freaking pumped for that game, is because there's so many like different kind of storylines for that game that I'm excited for. Not to mention it is Big Ten. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. They've got a chance to prove it, right? From the jump. Week 0, first game, Big Ten opponent, Big Ten West opponent, big game actually, and obviously for the division right off the bat. So obviously, maybe me and you might be pulling for the old Wildcats a little bit more than the Huskers, but that's why, hey, I'm coming down to Lincoln this weekend. We're gonna watch it together. I'm so
excited.
it.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. Can't wait. And then the last game, we won't focus much on this one, but Wyoming at Illinois. Little bit about Illinois. I know we talked about them a couple weeks ago. Offense was kind of like Iowa, just not very good. They were dead last in the Big Ten in passing. They were 115th in the nation in scoring, 112th in total offense. They did bring in a new offensive coordinator, so there's hope there. And then they got a quarterback, Tommy DeVito from Syracuse, who had a pretty good career at Syracuse. So you got those guys, right? And so there's a little bit of optimism, I guess. For Wyoming's case, they're kind of like Northwestern. They like to just grind it out, kind of low scoring, comes down to ball control, tough defense, right? But the problem with Wyoming, and I would maybe pick Wyoming to maybe upset or get, at least cover. But the problem is they lost a lot of guys in the transfer portal. Some key players. They had a stud receiver that left. Just all over the board. I mean, just lost a lot of good guys. And so that's just, I mean, for a team like Alabama, if they lose a lot of guys, it's whatever. You can replenish. A team like Wyoming, it's going to be kind of hard. I think for Illinois, just rely on the running game. 1-2 punch with Chase Brown and Josh McCray. Defensively, they return a decent amount of talent and experience. Go back to 2020, their defense was terrible. Brett Bielema comes in. Their defense was a lot better last year. I think it's going to be pretty much just as good as last year, just with the talent experience that they have coming back. Now, they did lose some guys, but I think overall, they should be fine to hold Wyoming. So I guess I'll go with I'll see what you say first, and then I'll give you my prediction.
Yeah, I've got Illinois winning pretty handily here. I've got them winning 30-14. The spread is -10.
Yeah.
So I've got them winning by about 16 points here. I think, like you mentioned it, Illinois actually had one of the few duos in the Big Ten, running back duos to combine for, I think, over like 1,500 yards rushing and Chase Brown and Josh McCray. So they're back. I think lean on the run game. Their defense should be well prepared to handle this Wyoming team. Like you said, they're depleted. I don't think that, I think I have a stat here. Wyoming's 0-6 in their last 6 games against Big Ten schools. Illinois is 10-1 in their last 11 openers to start. Well, granted, it's not saying much because usually your opener is against a pretty shitty team, but this might be another one of those teams.
Yeah.
So
I could see this game like being kind of close in the first half, just because it might take a while. Illinois new offense, right? Offense coordinator, right? So, but I think, with their running backs, they should easily be able to score a few touchdowns. Keep Wyoming with only maybe scoring maybe 1 or 2. So I have Illinois -10, and I have them winning 24-10. but I could easily, I could see Illinois, putting up more points than that. So that is it then. So those are kind of the two main games that I'm looking forward to. I know, Tyler, I talked to you a couple days ago. Nevada plays New Mexico State that night, Saturday night, which for me, I would never care about, but Iowa does play them in 4 weeks. So I'm going to watch a little bit of that game, I guess, just to kind of see what Nevada's like. What I've heard is they're going to be pretty terrible this year, but so I'll watch a little bit of that. And like I said, it's I don't care really who plays week 0. I'm glad it is Big Ten though, because I think the more I think about it, if you're telling me like 2, 3, 9 ACC teams are playing, I would maybe not be as pumped about. So I think maybe it's just because of the Big Ten. And I like the Big Ten, but I think regardless, I mean, I would still watch it if it was 2 ACC.
Well, and it's Nebraska. Nebraska's almost must-see TV at some
exactly.
most
it's
games.
Probably the reason why they are on week 0. I mean, so if they continue with this week, week 0 stuff, which I think they should have at least one game where it's like, okay, this team
game
is.
This game was supposed to be played already, right? But due to
2020,
COVID, right? So,
and then last year, and then got
true,
canceled. So,
So, dude, it's here, man. That's all I can say is we're finally here. We've been gearing up, like you said. We've had what is this? Our 5th, 6th episode? I can't even remember.
This is our. I want to say 6. It's 7th for me because remember I did that one a couple weeks ago.
Right.
So 6th episode. I had a guy I actually have a guy, and he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say what his name is, but he listens to our podcast. And I remember him, like, when I told him that we're recording, like, our weeks, like, back in July, he was beyond, like, confused why we would start so early. Cause it's like, what are you going to talk about? And I even told him, like, trust me, we'll find things to talk about. There's a lot to talk about every episode. Yeah. And we did that. And,
I think we hit all the major key points leading into the season. Now it's time to actually get these games underway, start reacting to them, good or bad. And not only that, but all the other games that obviously are in the Big Ten and maybe even some around the country if we can have time for that. But
exactly. Because next week already we are on to kind of game planning or previewing and our prediction for the first game. And, by next week too, we got Thursday night football starting up. We got some good games, Purdue, Penn State. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about some other games next week. And then after next week, we are back to 2 episodes a week, which is going to be fun.
That's exciting.
Sure. So we'll start having episodes out. We'll record on Sunday from Monday. I know there was a couple games last year where it was like an away game where we actually did a recording like immediately after the game, which sometimes isn't a good thing if we lose because we're kind of hot. But but we'll have one out every Monday, and then we'll have one out once again every Thursday. So that's coming up here shortly, and it's best time of the year, baby. Let's go. I love it.
Let's go. I'm pumped.
I saw a tweet last Saturday where it's like this is the last Saturday without college football till 2023, and
last. It's football in general, right? So whether it's college or NFL.
And, because NFL starts up, and once again, I've said this a lot on the pod. I'm starting to love. I mean, I always liked the NFL, but like the last couple years, I've really grown to love the NFL. And so I don't know if you probably do, but you might have forgot. But did you see the matchup, the Thursday night, the first game of the NFL season, which would be like 2 days before? Would be the day that you start your new job, but it's a couple days before the Iowa State game. Do you remember who plays?
God,
I'm going to tell you.
I do, but I totally forgot.
It's just an unbelievable matchup. Bills at Rams.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, that's what I love about the NFL, by the way. They know exactly what to do.
Yeah. That
a great.
Yeah, that game.
A team that won the Super Bowl versus a team that probably a lot of teams are picking to maybe get to or win a Super Bowl this year in the Bills. So
yep, exactly. I'm gonna look actually real quick before we end this podcast. I'm gonna look. So it's Bills at Rams, and then Sunday night football. Got the Bucks at the Cowboys, which I guess isn't bad.
I think they played last year, the first week too, or something.
Did that? They played Thursday night football. I think
Thursday night. Yeah.
And then Thursday afternoon, Packers Vikings, or Sunday afternoon, excuse me. Yeah. Packers Vikings.
Dude, it's loaded.
Chiefs Cardinals.
I'm a Vikings fan, so I'm pumped for that.
Yeah. And then you have Prime Video, don't you? Because after the first Thursday, so that first Thursday night game's on Fox or NBC. Is it Fox or NBC? I want NBC just because it's the first game of the season, Thursday night. But the week after is when they're going to start doing the Prime Video. In that game, Chargers at Chiefs.
Yeah,
hell of a
dude.
game. So
Yeah.
I'm I'm
that whole division is going to be a
yeah,
freaking insane,
I'm excited.
top to bottom. Yeah.
You know that we recorded a long podcast. I know people that are listening are like Apple, they won't notice, but on YouTube,
I was
I
wondering.
literally started with it being so bright in here. Now it's like
I was gonna say, I'm like, you lights go out, you pay the electricity bill.
no, it's.
What the
I
hell
mean,
happened?
I should have a lamp on, but once again though, as we get into like October, hell, if we're recording at 7 o'clock at night, it's gonna be dark out, so I'm gonna have to start using a lamp. But hell, at 7 o'clock, it's so bright, I don't want to get up during the middle of the episode, so I just gotta record in the dark. So it's still a little bright out, but it's not enough for
The show must go on. That's all.
I was gonna turn my thing, but I have all my things hooked up, so can't really do that. But all right, well, that is it for this episode. I think we got well over an hour. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what time we started this. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, all right, man. Well, hey, I'll see you in a couple days. So
yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. Watch some college football. Head down to Lincoln.
It's gonna be fun.
Show me around the
drink some good old
stomping grounds.
And be ready to go. So thank you all for listening once again. Leave us a review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your family. We don't really care how many people we actually get to listen, but we obviously want more people than not. At the end of the day, we're not really doing this for money or anything, but we want to do it for something. And obviously the more views we have, the more people that listen, it makes us more motivated to make podcasts and make episodes. So thank you guys all for listening, and go Hawks.